Good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and now powered by our first sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody, you might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in freedom of movement here at Free People Radio, and your freedom of movement is exactly what the establishment wants to take from you. I'm your host, Royce White, and I am here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is episode 27. I believe this is episode 27, right, Tanner? Episode 27, and the day is April 5th, year of our Lord 2023. We got a bunch of April birthdays, a bunch of April and March birthdays in my family. My little brother was uh, late March, March last week in March. My little sister was early March. My grandmother is April 3rd. I'm April 10th. The great A.J. Barker was in the last week of March. So we got a bunch of birthdays just passed, and mine is coming up this Monday ahead of us. I don't even know why I mentioned that. I just felt like telling the audience my birthday's coming up. Drop a little birthday comment next Monday's show. Okay. Um, what housekeeping do we have here? Oh, we had a little technical difficulty. There's so much to learn when you do a podcast. There's so many little intricacies and nuances of tech on the tech, and we're going through an entire revamp where we're going to be able to make the process of production much easier, which hopefully will lend to us being able to put out much more content. I told you guys that Professor Penn and I are planning on doing a show together called Hebrews. And my Please Call Me Crazy show will obviously continue. We're moving Professor Penn to the late night hour after me. So his podcast, the Professor Penn podcast, will now air at midnight, just to save enough space in case I go 9 to 11:30 sometimes. But if you want to listen to some late night content and learn at night like I like to a lot, you can catch the Professor Penn podcast now as soon as mine ends at midnight. Wealth of Knowledge, we'll call it College Midnight Moonlight College, right, with the professor. Maybe we change that podcast name in the future. So those will continue in that direction. The Hebrews podcast will hopefully be coming soon. That'll be a once a week deal where the professor and I sit down together and talk about these issues. But more importantly, on the horizon, I think, is the Royce White Show. And the Royce White Show will be hosted and located over on the Royce White YouTube channel. And there will be a special announcement when it comes to politics in the coming weeks that will also happen on that channel. And that channel is being revamped and restructured and being taken apart and put back together. And we're going to try and come up with a digital footprint that makes it easy for you to access all of these things and um, stay up to date on what's going on across a number of platforms because we're not slowing down. This is a dangerous time we live in. This is an urgent time that we live in, and we need to ramp up and put out more content and get the message out even more. But we can't do it in one place. We have to do it across multiple places, multiple mediums, multiple platforms, multiple times, multiple styles. The list continues. So we'll keep you up to date on all of that. Make sure you follow me on social media because some of those updates may come by way of social media. Um, there's so much out there. I mean, I have a Substack. I'm on Getter. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Truth. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok, although I'm quite sure I'm shadow banned on TikTok. When I first started posting videos, I was getting 100,000 or 200,000. I had one video get 500,000 views in like the first couple of days. And now all of a sudden, anytime I put a video up, it won't even go up to 100 views. So the CCP owns TikTok. We all know that, and I'm sure myself and many others like me will experience censorship or shadow banning on that platform, especially given the things that I talk about or talked about on TikTok. Maybe I build a new one with Free People Radio and we just go at it that way. I don't know yet. So many platforms. The last Renaissance, I flew here. The Big Three's coming back around in June. We just got the schedule for the Big Three, so I'll be playing and participating in the Big Three again this season. Last season, we came up short. We lost in the championship game. I'm looking for vengeance because my basketball career was cut short. I mean, let's just be honest. I have to watch many of my peers and counterparts that I grew up with playing the NBA right now, and I understand the geopolitics. I understand the sellout nature of the NBA ownership and all of their corporate partners to the CCP and their collaboration and conspiracy with the DC elites to sell out the American people. Had I not spoken out about mental health and mental health policy and the mindset and attitude towards mental health and human psychology and been blackballed for that, I would have certainly been blackballed for my politics shortly thereafter. So I have to sit back and watch, my peers play the game at the highest level, and it's frustrating at times. And the only place I get to, you know, let off some of that steam is in the Big Three in the summer. And I'm certainly looking to come into the Big Three this season, not as a sort of summer league or not as a sort of a shortened, lesser version of the NBA, but this being my NBA and this being the only place that I'll ever have the chance to play organized professional basketball again, because I certainly can't go overseas now either, because I'd probably get clipped and would never make it home, especially in places like China or anywhere there in Southeast Asia, where a lot of professional basketball players go to play and get paid well. I've been offered to play in Japan. I've been offered to play in South Korea and Taiwan and the Philippines, and the list goes on and on and on. And every time I said no, and that was for my own personal reasons, but mostly because you, the freedoms that America affords us are significant. And I think we all saw that with the Brittany Griner situation. But even more importantly, we saw that during COVID. And I had a lot of players that go to play in Europe every year or they go to play overseas every year. And when COVID happened, they were locked down for months, away from their families, away from their children, couldn't travel under government mandates. So, price too steep to pay, I think, to play basketball. That's for me personally. Plus, I spend more time these days on my MMA training and my MMA career than I do necessarily on basketball. So that also wouldn't allow me to go play overseas for 8 months out of the year because MMA is my primary focus, and basketball is not a secondary focus. But when you spend 30 years learning how to play a game, um, there's nothing new under the sun. It's all fine tuning, right? It's all honing the skill, and the honing of the skill takes a lot less time than learning an entire new craft like MMA. Or you got a multitude of practices, a multitude of skills that you need to learn on top of it being in a completely different sport. There's the boxing, there's the stand up, there's the jujitsu, there's the wrestling, there's playing Muay Thai, there's kicking, there's striking with small gloves versus big gloves, there's grappling with small gloves. It's a whole new world, and I love it. And MMA and martial arts will be a part of my life for the rest of my life, and I can't wait to get back in the octagon and compete again. That'll be coming shortly as well. So a little bit of housekeeping there. I just wanted to let you guys in on the world of Royce White so that you understand as we put or try to put together a digital footprint or a system that allows you to follow the things we're doing. It's not audacious, right? It's not out of arrogance or trying to bite off more than we can chew and confuse you and have you in a place where it's hard to find the content you want to find. I really do have that many things going on, but this conversation here is the most important thing I have going on by far, short of me now coaching my son's sixth grade AAU team for the summer. And they have a special team of young guys. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be able to watch young guys develop practice by practice, and I'm really enjoying that. At some point, when I'm all done with things, I may turn to coaching. I'm starting to get comfortable with the idea of that. I always said I would never have the patience to coach, but uh, I love it. When you love the game, you love the game, and the game of basketball is a beautiful game, and I think that's a good segue for our episode today. this sort of housekeeping was a little bit lighthearted, and I hope you enjoyed that pace of things. But we're gonna switch tones here pretty quickly. Um, I'm fed up. You know, when it comes to politics and the conversation around politics, I'm absolutely fed up. And the coaching piece made me think of it in real time, but I've been thinking about it over the last few years. Um, the narratives that are running are working. Now, you have small pockets of people across the country, across the world, who are starting to wake up and understand what it is they're looking at. But in large part, in a large way, in a significant way, the narratives are working. And here's a narrative that I have a particular problem with. And the reason why me talking about my kids' team and coaching made me think of this is because sports is powerful. Sports are powerful, and athletes are anomalies. And especially when you get to the professional level, at the highest level. But even the really good athletes at a young age and as they grow up are anomalies. They're an anomaly of physical movement. And physical movement is not nothing. Um, physical movement is not secondary to intelligence. I want to be clear about that. There's something genius about physical movement. There's something lost in the genius of physical movement in our current culture, and in many ways we've bastardized the genius of physical movement by commercializing it the way that we have. Not that it couldn't be commercialized and acknowledged and mined for the genius that it is. It's just that in our society, in our civilization, when things become commercialized, it tends to bring on the effect of not being able to see the deeper value. And sports is certainly like that, and basketball is like that. And I watched the game of basketball today, whether it be college, whether it be even the college women's game. I had a good time watching a lot of the NCAA women's games this past couple of weeks, and Caitlin Clark, and she's an incredible player. You know, for women especially, but of all time. I mean, she's one of the best scorers the women's game has ever seen at the college level. And I remember back when I was a kid watching Lindsay Whalen play, and being a Gopher fan, and watching Lindsay Whalen do the things she did. And she was incredible. Caitlin Clark's a different player than Lindsay, obviously, but Caitlin Clark is a special player. And I remember watching her in the South Carolina game and just being in awe that she was able to carry that team the way that she did, to beat a much deeper, much more athletic South Carolina team. But I knew during that game that they would have trouble with LSU, and the reason being is that LSU had much better scoring depth and much better shooters. And the girl Angel Reese, if you watch them play Virginia Tech, which was a very good Virginia Tech team, and I actually thought Virginia Tech would beat LSU, and Virginia Tech was up on LSU, but they ended up losing. Um, Angel Reese made moves at her size for prototypical post player in the women's game. She made moves at her size that told me that she was a step ahead of the rest of the girls, and she was going to be a tough cover for Iowa, for Iowa's bigs. But the entire LSU team was going to be a tough cover for Iowa all night. And lo and behold, they ended up putting up almost 100 points against Iowa, which is an incredible night of scoring at the college level in a championship game. I mean, 100 points is like a lot. Okay, that's a lot of points for a girls' team to put up. Number one, a women's team. I'm sorry, a women's team to put up, but especially in a national championship game. But I say all that to say I enjoy watching the game of basketball, and I think people don't understand just how good the game of basketball has gotten. Now, many people would attribute the evolution of basketball to the commercialization of basketball. They would say that the two are inextricably linked. That if it wasn't for the commercialization, then there wouldn't be such an emphasis at the grassroots level, and the game would not have evolved the way that it did. Maybe true, probably contributed to it. I'm not going to deny that. You certainly saw a significant evolution of the game going to a different level as it became televised and then hyper commercialized. Right, you had the '60s and '70s, and there was the basketball. Then the Dr. J era. Then you had Magic and Bird. Then you had Jordan. Then you had Kobe, Shaq, Allen Iverson, and then you had LeBron, and now you have the players of the day, the Ja Morants and Lukas, and I'm missing a lot of players, but I just gave you a generational overview of how the game's progressed, and it's a marvel. It's a marvel how the game is played. It's a marvel how good the players have gotten. Um, it's inspiring. It makes me want to play again. It actually does. It makes me want to be able to play 5-on-5 full court because the game has actually moved towards the way that I traditionally played, or the way that I play still to this day. I say traditionally like I'm old. I'm not really that old. I'll be 32 on April 10th, but probably would still in basketball years. I'm maybe around 26, 27, low mileage on the legs, and in my style of play, barring any injuries and being in good shape, I probably could play to about 40 or 40, 41, 42. One of my OGs, as we call it in the basketball world, Vince Carter, showed that you could be a high flying player in the early part of your career and then transform your game to be a utility and serviceable player who can knock down shots and make the right plays, and play good positional team defense all the way until you're 42 years old after your ankles are gone. And I remember being at the first ever Nike Skills Academy for Vince Carter. To take you back, when they went from the Nike All American camp to the Nike Skills Academy, I was in that inaugural group, and LeBron James was the Big Skills Academy, the LeBron James camp. He was where all of the positions came together. But before his camp in the summer, they would have positional camps. In the first year, it was Steve Nash were the point guards. I believe Kobe Bryant had the shooting guards. Vince Carter, the late Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to him. Um, Vince Carter had the small forwards, and Amari Stoudemire had the power forwards and bigs. And then we all came together for LeBron camp. And then Kobe didn't do the skills camp in the years to come. And then Paul Pierce did it. And then Steve Nash stopped. And now I think it's Chris Paul and so on and so forth. But anyway, I remember being at the first Vince Carter Skills Academy, and Vince and I having a really good relationship, or we had a few moments where he shared a lot of things about the game, just one on one with me, and I remember that really inspiring me to believe that I could play at the next level. And I remember Vince telling me at the camp that he was having problems with his ankle, and he had a couple of fragments in his ankle, and he needed to have ankle surgery. And it was just I admire that Vince was able to go through ankle injuries, which in many cases hinder people's career. Ankles are the worst to deal with, and he was able to stay in the league until he was 42 years old. It's a testament of his work ethic and his love for the game. But anyway, that aside, I'm just giving you backstory on the Royce White basketball journey. All that aside, the game has evolved to a place that is absolutely inspiring from an athletic standpoint, from a skill standpoint, from a basketball philosophy standpoint. I love how the game is being played today. I think it's a little soft. I would say it's a little soft, and that softness is a reflection of an anti-competitive spirit that permeates the owner suites of the NBA. I don't like the anti-competitive soft game. I don't like let's make the game all about offense. I think there's a balance. I think there's a happy medium where the game is already evolving offensively. So I don't think we need to go out of our way to make the game less physical to help that evolution. I actually think a little bit more physicality would draw more fans in to watch the game on a night by night basis. But nonetheless, where the players have come is absolutely amazing, and the way positions have changed is absolutely amazing. I mean, when you look at a player like Joker from the Denver Nuggets, right? It's Denver Nuggets. Joker plays for the Denver Nuggets. My guy Tanner doesn't know. He doesn't watch basketball, I guess. Think yeah, Joker plays for the Nuggets. Um, when you watch a guy at 7 foot with the body that he has, which isn't a really athletic body. I mean, he's not a traditional run and jump big by any means. He's more of a stationary dribble in one place big by all metrics. But in order to have the touch, to have the feel for the game, to be able to see the game, to be able to see the plays before they happen and make plays at the level that he's making is absolutely amazing. The same thing with Luka Doncic, who is, about 6'7", he's about an inch or two shorter than me, body like a 13-year-old lesbian, and that's no disrespect to him because nobody in the NBA can stop him. They literally can't stop him, and he's playing at half speed. I watched him change ends the other night when I was watching the game, and he really took off in what looked like a speed walk. It wasn't even a speed walk. It was like a jog in place almost. But he's able to be effective, and that's a testament to just the evolution of understanding offensively and how the game is really a game of angles. It's a game of anticipation. It's a game of efficiency and being able to shoot the ball at a consistent clip and being able to utilize the combination of it to neutralize athleticism. And that's brilliant. I mean, as an athlete, as a chess player, as a competitor, you have to look at that and admire it. And there are many other great players too. I don't just mean to pick out Joker and Luca. They're just not atypical. They're not typical basketball bodies that show how much the game has evolved. But your Kyrie Irvings and your Kevin Durant's are still, in my opinion, the pinnacle of athleticism and skill. Um, Kevin Durant's the most dangerous scorer of all time. There's no doubt about it. What he's able to do at his size is even more of a marvel. And Kyrie Irving has skill that's just absolutely unreal. The 48 minutes of basketball, four 12-minute quarters, and 5-on-5 does not allow the common fan to see just how much skill Kyrie Irving has. The game's not long enough. Okay. So I want to give and also I'll say this before I start, and I think this is the right segue. I don't know how long we've been going, Tanner. Can you see the time right there? 24 minutes. Oh, we're just getting started. Good. Okay, good. I talk sports quicker and cleaner than I talk politics and philosophy. Um, in order to segue here, I want to say this. I've been very critical of LeBron James, and we're going to talk about why. And I'm going to get angry and I'm going to get frustrated and I'm going to get emotional and I'm going to get passionate when I talk about the why. But before we get there, I just want to say that um, if anybody out there is not mature enough to separate LeBron James's athletic accomplishments and his athleticism and his skill from his politics and his personal life, um, you really don't deserve to be involved in the conversation, in my opinion. I mean, you have to be mature enough to separate a man's accomplishments, especially when they're in such a physical domain. Now, this isn't being apologetic for how much of a sellout LeBron James is. It's just to say that when we talk about basketball, we can talk about his basketball accomplishments and his skill in isolation. What I often see is people who will say, "Oh, I don't like LeBron at all" when talking about basketball because of his politics, or they'll be all in on LeBron James's politics because of his basketball. You should be able to separate the two. I mean, if we can't separate that, we're really showing an inability to effectively talk about either issue, whether it be sports or politics, right? The two are very, very different. And where they intersect is money. Where they intersect is economic interest. Where they intersect is now social media and the currency of attention. But the game itself, which is predominantly in the physical world and a matter of physical movement and genius and political scheming, are two totally different realities. Okay. And what makes it unfortunate that somebody who is as much of a physical movement genius as LeBron James has been brainwashed in his politics the way he has been. Because there's no doubt in my mind that if he had the right voices, if he had the right teaching, if he had the right mentors in politics, in his personal life, in his worldview, that he would be just as impactful as he has been in basketball, because it takes a special mind to be able to do the things that he does and has done. So I want to give him his flowers when it comes to the basketball. But that's not really what we talk about here on Please Call Me Crazy. But I am an athlete. So there's my little sports and basketball takes for the day, for the week. A lot of controversy around the sports world this week, and the race narrative plays right into it. But I want to go well beyond the black and white. I want to go to where the sellouts make off with the green. China. On Monday's episode, we talked about China, Mackinder's land theory, and the Thucydides trap. Well, I want to talk about China more directly today. And I'm going to talk about some things that are going to make a lot of people upset, and I'm doing it intentionally because me, quite honestly, when I think about the nature of this conversation, I'm pretty upset myself. Actually, beyond that, I'm trying to do my best. I actually probably preface this with sports to stop from just getting in front of the mic and yelling for the first 30 minutes. Actually, when I thought about doing the podcast last night, I was going to come in here and start motherfucking from the opening stanza. So the sports calm me down, and sports can do that, right? We have that love for the game helps us mediate some of our anger or whatever the case may be, fears, anxiousness, whatever the case may be. But I'm very, very pissed off about the nature of this one specific conversation, and it dawned on me over the last couple of days because of something I came across on the internet. You know, it's always weird to say something live on television or in an interview, in a press conference, at a moment in time somewhere in the world, and then have somebody else post it up and see a lot of people react to it. That's a weird phenomenon. Like that's really weird to encounter as a person. I don't know if anybody else out there who has had this happen to them can speak to it, but you know, those of us who have been, let's say, fortunate or unfortunate enough, you could say, to experience the virality of the internet and things we say, it's strange, right? So there's a clip that I came across on Instagram, and you can go check it tonight. I'll post it up on my Instagram story so you can reference it. There's a clip of me back in 2021. It was 2020. Yeah, it was 2020 now. The 2020 Big Three season. It's my first season with the Power. I'm not sure if it's 2020. It might have been 21. I'm not sure. Um, there's a clip of me talking to John Sally after a game on CBS where I say, free the Uyghurs, right? And for anybody who doesn't know, the Uyghurs are an ethnic minority of Muslims that originate from what is called East Turkestan. It's really Turkestan, but China, what you now see as the People's Republic of China, actually isn't what was originally China. China has now absorbed, or over the course of 5,000 years, and even more recently, 1,000 years, and so on and so forth, China has absorbed the territories of Mongolia to the north, Tibet to the west, and around that curve, that northwestern curve of Mongolia and Tibet, you have Turkestan and some of the Turkish territories or lands. So the Uyghurs are a native people, to East Turkestan, and they're an ethnic minority, and they are traditionally Muslim. So I said in this post game interview, free the Uyghurs. Free the Uyghurs, 2 million ethnic minorities in concentration camps in East Turkestan, China. Something we got to talk about. You know, I'm always going to talk about the real things. Free the Uyghurs. And this clip was posted on somebody else's Instagram, put the music, given the subtitles, had that virality to it. I think over 300,000 people have liked this video, and over 2 million people have seen it. Not to mention, I remember when it happened, right? I remember when this first happened in 2020, it was viral then. This current video was just reposted in the last 30 days, probably. So it's popped back up. And I took the time to go look at the comments. And I decided to leave a comment. Inshallah, which means in Islam or Arabic, it means God willing. Free the Uyghurs, inshallah. And I went to go look at the comments, and what I saw there disturbed me. Disturbed me so much it kept me up last night. The reason it kept me up is because I understand we talk about starting to live in a multipolar world, but now I'm starting to understand multipolar misinformation. I wanna try and hone in on what's going on here with China even deeper than I did on Monday. On Monday, we talked about how it's discussed in the Pentagon. We talked about how it's discussed at Oxford or Cambridge or Harvard or the Chicago Business School or West Point or Yale or so on and so forth. We talked about it from a geopolitical sense and a historical sense. Now I want to talk about it from a cultural sense. What is going on there in China? Why is it important? Now you'll have people come from different angles. And the angle that I saw the most in these comments that sent me off was two things. One was, this is CIA propaganda. There is no Uyghur genocide. This is CIA propaganda. The second was a black man saying, in criticism of me, I wonder, does he talk about the oppression of black men in America? Free the black man in America. And here you see the merger of corrupt status quo identity politics. And the black man's there, and the black woman's there, and the CCP is there, and the European monarchy Marxists are there, and the neoliberal neocon world order is there. And oh, by the way, many of the Muslim and Arab leaders in the Middle East and all around the world are there. And we're going to get into all of it tonight. This is what we're going to be talking about tonight. I hope you're still with me. I hope the basketball didn't bore you. I hope you enjoyed having a look inside my athletic mind. We'll talk more sports in the future. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because the NBA carries water for the CCP. And it's not by accident that the NBA and its ownership is comprised of many, many anti-Jews. Nothing against the Jewish people. And we're going to talk more about the Jewish Christian Abrahamic link in a moment, and these 501c3 Christians who want to make a case about people's faith and how they serve as the highest form of controlled opposition. We're going to get there in a minute, but first I want to lay the groundwork. It's not by accident that the NBA's ownership is comprised of many, many anti-Jews. What does anti-Jew mean? Let's just be clear, because I know people get real squirmish anytime you hear the word Jewish, just like when you hear the word Negro. Well, I feel uniquely positioned to speak on both, not only because I understand the cultural mechanisms historically, but also because I am a black man who happens to be in the crosshairs of this cultural narrative, which is why we're doing Hebrews, right? Hebrews and Negroes with Professor Penn and Royce White. I'm in the club. Let's just say I can speak on it because I'm in the club. Anti-Jew. Don't believe in God. It's really simple. If you don't believe in God, you're not Jewish. There is no cultural Jewish. That's a scam. The culture of Jews would not have made it through the charnel house of history without the Hebrew Bible. And if anybody denies that, then you know they're probably a Satanist. Okay. There were many, many cultural identities of many empires and many civilizations that were much more prominent than that of Israel. I mean, ancient Israel. The Ottomans, the Persians, the Turks, the Ottomans, I'm sorry, the Persians, the Mongolians. There have been many, many empires, the Mali Empire. There have been many empires that have been slain in the churnal house of history, um, due to whatever time, losing a war, having your history books burned, having your people killed and genocided. This all of this stuff contributed to the many identities that were prominent at one time not being there anymore. But for some reason, this little dusty place in Western Asia, and make no mistake about it, the Middle East is in Western Asia. This little dusty place in Western Asia and this little tribal religion was able to to stand the test of time thus far. And the Hebrew Bible, the oral and written tradition of Abraham and Abrahamic faith, is what allowed the Jewish identity to exist and survive until today, where many people can now claim ex post facto that they're cultural Jews. Well, what a champagne take on history, right? You're not cultural Jews. You're either a Jew or you're not a Jew. You either believe in God or you don't believe in God. And if you want to go spiritual and biblical, uh, Jesus really clarified the whole matter when he said, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile. I didn't come to destroy the law or change the law. I came to fulfill the law. And we'll end up getting into more of that whole dynamic when we talk about the 501c3 Christians being the highest form of controlled opposition. But I wanted to start with anti Jews. Don't believe in God. Secular. Secular Jews. There is no God. God isn't real. God is fake. Well, then don't call yourself Jewish. That's all. Don't call yourself Jewish because your cultural identity as a Jew is inextricably linked to your faith in God. That's a reality. I mean, that's just fundamental history. Okay? It's not by accident that a bunch of anti-Jewish elites in the NBA ownership suites have hitched their wagons to China, because there are a bunch of anti-Jewish elites throughout the world who have hitched their wagon to China, and they're not the only ones, because many, many, many other European monarchies and European elites that aren't Jewish, that would tend to say they were Christian, but now they just abandon God as well. Many anti-Christians, right? You see how we're equal opportunity with the criticism? There are anti-Jews, there are anti-Christians, and there are even anti-Muslims, and we're going to get to them in a minute. But it's not by accident that you see this anti-Jewish and CCP totalitarian Marxist alliance. And as I said on Monday, if you go back and look at Marx, he was, in fact, an anti-Jew by my criteria. He was a man who came from a long line of Jewish rabbis. His father denounced the Jewish faith and pretended to be Christian to hide from being killed at a time when Jews were persecuted and hunted down in Europe. Or, they were targeted. And then Karl Marx comes up with the most anti-God, radical materialist philosophy tradition in human history, Marxism, communism, which they now present as a remedy to the unequal distribution of wealth and resources. But in actuality, it's just radical materialism. I'm here in the world now, and I'm only here in the world now. There is no eternal, there is no spiritual, there is no God. So I have to do whatever I have to do to have the most out of this life right here, right now, morals and ethics aside. Anti-Jewish to the max, anti-Christian to the max. And there are a bunch of would-be Christians, and there are a bunch of would-be Jews, and a bunch of would-be Muslims in on the deal with a bunch of people who openly reject God, who openly admit they're secular. NBA, this is who we're talking about. The Uyghur Genocide. How interesting. How interesting is it that an American culture, an American pop culture that's built on the back and images and likeness of many, many, many Negroes refuses to utter the words China, refuses to utter the word Uyghur, refuses to utter the word communism. They refuse to. You think that's by accident? I know it's not by accident. But what I also want to try and offer is that it's not a direct conspiracy either. Work with me. Stay with me. Do I think that the World Economic Forum leaders like Klaus Schwab are calling the Henry Kissingers, and the Henry Kissingers are calling the Phil Knights, and the Phil Knights are calling the Adam Silvers, and the Adam Silvers are calling the Rich Pauls and telling LeBron James not to say Uyghur, not to say China, not to say CCP, Chinese Communist Party? Maybe. That might be some of it. But the widespread unwillingness to even utter the word China across black elites, specifically black celebrities and black Hollywood, can account for this type of communication. Why? When you can't find the smoking gun in a conspiracy, the answer is always metaphysical. When you can't find the smoking gun, sorry, I said that wrong. When you can't find the smoking gun in a conspiracy, sometimes the answer is metaphysical. Sometimes there's a smoking gun you just haven't found yet, Tanner. Sometimes you just haven't, they make the smoking gun illegal to find. That was Edward Snowden. In order to find the truth that you need to find, you have to do things that are now considered to be against the law. That's one way to safeguard the smoking gun, and there's a lot of that. And there's a lot of that in this scenario. But there's an even deeper reason. The smoking gun is metaphysical, it's spiritual, it's wickedness, evilness. And the tides, the winds of evilness push in the same direction. You'll have two evil players that never have to meet or talk arrive at the same conclusion because that's how good Satan is. It's not by accident that many of these same black bourgeoisie Negroes won't say CCP, and they also fail to rightfully acknowledge Satan. They also fail to rightfully and substantively acknowledge the devil or evil or wickedness or the wickedness of the corporatocracy or the wickedness of corporate America or the wickedness of their own corporation. You following me? The Uyghurs, China. Why will none of you Negroes ever say China? None of you Negro, it's getting weird. It's actually getting a little weird. I mean, it's not a funny situation at all. I'm trying to laugh and keep it a little humorous to keep from screaming in this fucking microphone all night. Okay? Understand, I don't want to blow your fucking ears off every time I have an episode. But the shit is getting a little strange, guys. It's getting a little strange. All these social justice issues, from cruelty to turtles. I walk into a fucking Chipotle and they got organic biodegradable straws so the turtles don't suffocate. From biodegradable straws to the BET Awards giving a humanitarian, no, it wasn't the BET Award. Oh yeah, it was the BET Awards giving an NAACP award to Gabriel Union, basically, to Gabriel Union for convincing Dwayne Wade to turn his son into a girl. All the way to climate change, Greta Thunberg, and all the other climate activists. Bono, you too, Bono. Pick one. Pick an issue. Doesn't matter. Right? You got pollution, you got a panoply of social issues all across the world. Everybody's in. Everybody's in. Every month, some corporation is going on their social media to advocate or do some special promo that if you give an extra $1, it's going to the United Tree Huggers Fund of the world or whatever the case may be. And I don't have anything against trees. I'm a northerner. I'm a country boy. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a Viking. Okay. I don't have any problems with the trees. In fact, I think the whole climate scam is a bastardization of nature. to be quite honest. I see a bunch of climate finocchios taking the natural way and nature and using it as a grift the same way they use Negroes and Jews. And it offends me. It offends me that they do it to Negroes. It offends me that they do it to Jews. And it's starting to offend me that you're doing it to the trees. I'm offended for the trees, actually. But I'm not going to give any money to the United Tree Hugger Fund of the world or the mosquito nets for malaria in East Africa or West Africa or South Africa or the Congo. Oh, the Congo. We'll get to the Congo in a moment, but I want to stay right here. Why will none of you Negroes ever say Uyghur? And then it dawned on me the sophistication of this scam here. See, the narrative is that Negroes face the worst oppression of in history. And by that measure, all other identity politics games can be waged. All other wars of identity and culture can be waged on the back of the assertion that the oppression that Negroes have faced in America and in colonial history are the standard bearer. And so we can't threaten that. Same with the Jews. The Holocaust is the greatest genocide that's ever been waged. We can't threaten that. The entire narrative upholds the post-World War II democratic liberal order that was first built on the graves of Jews who were slaughtered, a political scheme that was built on top of graves of Jews who were slaughtered, and then entrenched on top of the oppression of blacks who were unfairly treated and also in some cases slaughtered. There's your cultural narrative. There's your identity politics. The fears of Jewish and black women coming together to tell their men, never fight back against the establishment. Always remember the possibility of death. Always remember the possibility of slaughter. Always remember the possibility of genocide. And in that, you march in line, lockstep with whatever the status quo says because it's safe. And that's why none of you Negroes will say the word China. None of you Negroes will say the word Uyghur. Tell me. I'll wait. Why will none of you Negroes say the word Uyghur? The words even sound a little similar, don't they? I mean, I'm not going to say it here. Uyghur. You guys aren't getting it yet. You don't get it. You don't see. You don't see what's happened. Now, and I'll say again, there is great merit to the claim that psychological enslavement, psychological slavery has usurped physical bondage. There's not even merit. That's the case. But we live in a multipolar world. In the West, psychological slavery has replaced bondage. There in the East, they've gone back to physical bondage. And I'm on the internet watching a clip of me calling for the freedom of a people who have been put involuntarily, against their will, in what the CCP calls re-education camps. For all you black men out there, if they come and they take you from your home and they take you somewhere and they put you somewhere against your will, what do we call that? That's called fucking prison. Okay? I don't care if you call it a re-education camp or lollipop land or spiritualville or the Zodiac land. Well, I don't care what you call it. I don't care what name the CCP gives it. And here's the kicker. They've already admitted to it. And I'm watching black men on the internet shill for the Chinese Communist Party. You don't know what's going on there in China. You don't know what's going on with the Uyghurs. You don't know anything about China. You don't know anything about what's going on with the concentration camps. Those aren't concentration camps. Worry about the black men here in America. Worry about black men being shot and killed by the police. This is how the establishment, a global establishment, will use the oppression of one people all around a world away to justify and manipulate and misguide another group of people about an oppression here at home. You guys don't see it? Are you that pig-headed? The answer is yes. It's a rhetorical fucking question. Of course you are. Or she wouldn't say the shit. And it's not just a few people. The grassroots sentiment that I find when I see a clip of me calling for the freedom of the Uyghurs is the same grassroots energy that allows the black bourgeois elites that you cowards sellout motherfuckers worship. It's the same energy that allows them to stand up at the podium, stand up on a pedestal, stand up on stage, or to accept some award and lie straight to your face on behalf of you to the white neoliberal neocon world order. They're brokering your citizen. They're brokering the value of your citizenship. They're brokering the deals. They're brokering the governance that's supposed to be self-governance, but you traded that away too. And you want to say it's because the founding fathers were white supremacists. Oh my God. Oh my God. Thomas Jefferson is literally coming back from his grave. Oh my God. White supremacy. Oh my God. The Whigs. We can't let the statues stand. We cannot let the statues fucking stand because it reminds us of the days when we were enslaved, but we buy fucking sneakers and every other item that we can possibly muster up enough welfare state money to purchase, and we buy straight from a country that has slaves today. In fact, the slaves made the shit. It was so strange to me. I read a New York Times or a Reuters article. You can go look this up. There was a Reuters article where a shipment, a container, was seized at an eastern port with a bunch of Uyghur hair. No, they hadn't made hair weave, wigs out of Uyghur hair from the concentration camps. Here come your neocon, neoliberal shills. Here come your far leftist controlled opposition who say, oh, that's just CIA propaganda. The CIA don't need no fucking propaganda to manufacture consent for us to go to war with China. When have they ever needed your fucking consent to go to war anywhere? Are you people fucking dumb? The CIA, the NSA, the military industrial complex, they don't need an okay from you to go and take somebody's shit. They've never needed an okay from you because you too caught up in what they're putting in front of you on TV. There ain't no anti-war movement. You already see that in the Ukraine. There is no anti-war, anti-nuclear proliferation movement. Y'all aren't out in the streets about geopolitical issues at all. You're in front of your computer jerking off. You can't quit jerking off. You're jerking off with men, you're jerking off with women, you're jerking off with the mixture, you're jerking off with kids, you're jerking off with the elders, you're pissing and pooping and all kinds of other shit. 50% of the internet's porn. You're jerk-offs. That's the reality. We're a jerk-off culture. So don't act like the CIA has to go out of its way to manufacture anti-Chinese propaganda. Not real. Oh, and oh, by the way, don't forget the anti-Asian hate crime bill. Remember the anti-Asian hate crime bill? That was a slap in your face. That was pissing on your head and telling you that it's raining in the middle of a pandemic that originated from a biolab in Wuhan, China. And then they had this narrative where they were saying that black people were randomly attacking Asian people because of Trump and MAGA's anti-Asia, anti-China rhetoric. But when they said Asia, when they say anti-Asian hate crime, they didn't mean Russia, which is a part of Asia. They didn't mean the Middle East, which is a part of Asia. They didn't mean India, which is a part of Asia. They didn't mean in Turkestan, Uzbekistan. They didn't mean any of those countries. They meant China. And they called it Asia just to pass it along. And you motherfuckers bought it. You let them use your name that was the propaganda. You talk about propaganda from the security state. That was the propaganda. The propaganda is that there was ever an anti-Asian crime problem in America after the pandemic. I lived in a black community all my life. We loved the Asian people. I went to a school and it's full of Asians. Never was, I don't even remember an Asian kid and a black kid getting in a fight in my entire time at school. Two black kids might got in a fight, sure. A black kid and a white kid, absolutely. A black kid and an Asian kid, never seen a fight between a black kid and an Asian kid. Have you? At your time in school, Tanner, did you ever see a black kid and an Asian kid fight? I never actually fucking seen that in my entire life. Funny. Maybe times are much different. I don't know. Maybe there's some band of roving thugs and gangsters who are so seduced by the rhetoric of Donald Trump and the conspiracy theories of the lab leak and gain of function. Maybe there are some black young people out there who are so initiated in geopolitical rhetoric around China that they felt the impulse to bring carnage upon the Asian people. Really. This is the shit you people fucking believe. And then but it dawns on me as I think about it that you don't actually believe it. You sold out to it. You're bought into it. You don't believe it. Who would believe that? Nobody believes that shit. You don't believe it. You just let them tell you it so you can keep being a sellout. That's what it is. Because the real truth is you don't give a shit about the Uyghurs or any other social issue any more than you give a shit about the politics that are coming down to bear on you on your own street, at your own house, at your own address, inside your house. You don't give a shit. The jerk off has gotten too good. You don't care if the CIA propaganda. CIA propaganda is in one breath telling you that the proliferation of mass shooters is constraint to white supremacists and Nazis, which was true for a while. There seemed to be a weird manifestation of mass shooters who had strangely right-wing white supremacy sounding manifestos and suicide notes. Of course, that was real. And then in one fell swoop, all of a sudden you have transgender mass shooters. Now that's a fucking CIA psyop for your ass. That's a psyop. Alex Jones got banned for that, right? He got banned for saying that it was a hoax. I'm not saying it's a hoax. What I'm saying is the narrative that's cooked into it. Oh, there are mass shooters, and there are mass shootings, and there are school shootings, and they're tragic. And all of you sitting at home better start to consider the reality that homeschooling your kids may be a necessary option because the school shootings are that bad. I mean, it's that tragic out here. But what about the narrative? See, the CIA, they controlled the narrative. And there are different factions in the CIA. Let's be clear. The CIA isn't a monolith. It's as close to a monolith as you can get, probably, but it's not a monolith. There are probably good people in the CIA who are patriots and God-fearing and actually want to fight back against what we're seeing today. And those are the people who are probably blowing the whistle on what's going on in China. But oh no, that's just America wanting to go to war. And I'll tell you this, you neocons out there, you Republicans out there that let America walk around the planet and use democracy as an excuse to go and bomb people and take people's shit is exactly why we can't have an honest conversation today about the CCP because there's no trust. There's no trust in the government. There's no trust in the military. There's no trust in our politicians. There's no trust in the process. There is no trust. That was by design. Is it William Casey, the director of the CIA, that said, we'll know our mission is complete when everything the American public believes is a lie? Oh, he didn't say that. Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. So you got the CIA running propaganda, and then you got Alex Jones running conspiracy theories about what the CIA says. Well, who's telling you? There you go again. The CIA and the amusement park is open 365 days, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 24 hours. It's always open for you. For those of you who even are interested in the shit, because we know the vast majority of you just want to go to the basketball game, have a beer, and live vicariously through your your favorite athlete to hate. Cucks. Cuck society. Jerk offs to the right of me, cucks to the left. Stuck in the middle with you. I'm just here bearing witness. You know, people say, "Oh, well, what's the solution?" Well, the first step to solving any problem is diagnosing the problem. And I know some of you think that you have the problem well diagnosed, but I'm here to tell you that I don't fucking think so. I really don't think we do. Let me go to the next iteration of the scam. We know Negroes won't say Uyghurs. That's weird. But it's not so strange when you realize that the black bourgeoisie mentality of LeBron James has become the modus operandi of black people all across the country. Writ large, that's why 98% of you black women out there voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. That's why. And you say, black women aren't a monolith. Well, shit, when it comes to voting, you are certainly a monolith. I can't find a 98% data set in any data set anywhere else in any human endeavor. There's not a 98% data set. God damn, 98%? 98%? 98% of people who take Tylenol don't survive. Shit, people take Tylenol some days and just croak. I mean, damn, 98%? That's religious. And that's a good segue to my next point, because my next point is about you Christians out there. Oh, yeah, this is Holy Week, and we're going to go about as holy as I can go on this Wednesday before Good Friday. You 501c3 Christians kill me, because I see you too. You're in the comments saying, Muslims aren't our brothers. Muslims aren't Christians' concern. You want to have an argument about scripture. You want to have an argument about Christ versus Muhammad versus Judaism and Abraham and Moses. And you want to have these arguments, and you present it so well. You present it like you're so concerned with faith. You're so concerned with damnation or salvation. You think you can run that shit on me? You can run that shit on them. You can run the shit at your 501c3 Christian church. You can't run that shit here. So don't try. I keep saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it. Don't try, because the shit falls on deaf ears here. Because I know that the Muslims being Uyghurs has nothing to do with why you don't care about it. You wouldn't care if they were Christians. Let's get straight to the point. You wouldn't give a fuck about a genocide or concentration camps in China if they were Christians. And you know how I know? Because alongside the Uyghurs being persecuted, genocided, rounded up, put in concentration camps in China, so are Christians. The house Christians. Look up the house Christians. And in fact, wasn't it Tiananmen Square where the Christians were? Oh, you forgot about Tiananmen Square, right? What happened to the Free Tibet movement? Tibet has just been assumed as a natural part of China. But the Ukraine's not a natural part of Russia, you see? You see where I'm going with this shit? Tanner, am I making sense today yet? Sometimes I feel like I'm rambling, but from the audience's feedback, you seem to be able to follow the trail. Tibet, East Turkestan, natural part of China, not our business. Ukraine, not a natural part of Russia. That's our business. Sellouts. You people are sellouts. And it's okay to be a sellout. Look, I know you go home at night and you prepare your little resume with your little stationery and your cute little header and all your little information. Hi, my name is Don Johnson, and my phone number and my email. And if you can't reach me there, my fax, my secondary email, my sole proprietorship, my LLC. Here's my information. I know you prepare your little resume and it's all nice and organized and ready to go for the first fucking chance you get to sell out. I get it. That's fine. If you want to be a fucking sellout, go right ahead. Be my guest. I can't stop you. Just don't act all high and mighty and moral. Don't talk to me about scripture. Don't talk to me about salvation. Don't talk to me about faith. Don't talk to me about sacred honor, because I can look a motherfucker in the eyes and tell if they have sacred honor or not. I have a good bullshit detector. Always been that way since I was a little tyke, a little kid, about yay high. I could look an adult in the eye and I could tell whether they were full of shit. Happened to sometimes in my own family, at school. As I grew up, friends, women, didn't matter. Coaches, didn't matter. I got a great bullshit detector. So you can run the sellout game as far as it'll take you. Go as far as it'll take you. It'll take you right to I'm sure, first of all, for most of you, it won't take you anywhere. Number one, that's the scam, is that's just a cesspool for you to become a Satanist. And then you'll resent the fact that you spent 20 years trying to climb the ladder in a Satanist game. And when you don't get the success that you have been bred to think you should have from a narcissistic, technological internet world, then you'll fucking kill yourself, right? Then you'll become a transgender mass shooter. Perfect. Chaos ensues. We all win. What a great play by the Satanists. And you, my friends, have played today for free 99. But for some of those of you who will rise through the ranks and make it to the top of that game, you'll get a dildo thrown with a lot of money, right? You'll get a dildo thrown like Don Lemon with a lot of money. Great. Just don't act righteous. And don't think that the rest of us are stupid enough to believe that all of your geopolitical jargon is in any way aimed at either justice or salvation, because it's not. And I see the link now clearly. Oh, I know what the problem is. This is a radical crisis of leadership and an epidemic of self-doubt and a lack of sacred honor. And it's all across the board. Oh, it's all across the board. From your TD Jakes, who owns the fucking Shade Room, come to find out, you're preaching God, but you got a stake in a media outlet that does nothing but talk about gossip, violence, and sexual innuendo. Negro, is you crazy? Are y'all crazy to follow this Negro? And y'all follow this Negro. Then I see him pop up over here, and he pops up over here, and y'all call him fake in the comments, but then he's still following them, still following the Shade Room. I'm showing you. How many minutes we've been going now, Tanner? Let me know. Huh? How long we been going? Hour 10. Okay, good. I see you follow them. These are the people these are your leaders. Yeah, watch LeBron James on the basketball court. Be in awe of the athletic ability. Be in awe of the talent. Be in awe of a natural gift that is an anomaly. These are your leaders. These have become your spiritual, political thought leaders. And then you know what they say. Then they'll say this. LeBron James isn't my leader. He's just a basketball player. Well, who are your leaders? Feel free to drop it in the comments. Jamel Hill, Sean King, Malcolm Gladwell, Noah Yuval Harari, Karl Marx, Trotsky, Lenin. Who are your leaders? Tell me. Show me. Write them down. Who are your 501c3 pastor Christian leaders? Show me them. Just show me. Who are we talking about? Crisis of leadership. Prominent crisis of leadership. And it's not that there are no leaders out there. It's the crisis of leadership isn't by default. It isn't because of a lack of leadership or a lack of leaders. You all don't like leaders. You're an anti-leader culture. You don't want real leadership. That's the sad reality. That's what we're faced with now. We're faced with a culture who despises true and genuine leadership. That's why you hate Donald Trump. If it was, is Donald Trump somebody who I would just hang out with every day? Maybe. I don't really know him. I don't know him. I don't know him. So I couldn't really say if I would like to hang out with him or not. Maybe. Might be way cooler than I could possibly imagine. Never met him. My support for him isn't contingent on some jerk-off pipe dream that I could either live vicariously through him or meet him and become friends with him or benefit from him. That's not the support of him. That's not the support of the movement. That's not support of the policies. The support is based on what all you jack-offs aren't willing to say and do. Support by process of elimination. And the leadership is so poor all around the world that you don't have to say much to be on the right track. And that's sad. That's dark. You don't have to say much now to be on the right track of leadership. You certainly don't have to spend an hour and 10 minutes elucidating the many, many rabbit holes of cultural and political corruption. You don't have to go that deep. You don't have to say much of anything. And that's an issue too. This is where your 501c3 Christians step up to the plate to become the highest form of controlled opposition. And you talk about God, and you talk about salvation, and you talk about faith, and you talk about scripture, and you talk about all these things that sound good, but you can't wait. You can't wait to kneel at the throne of an anti-God empire. You can't wait. And the real dark truth is, we couldn't wait the entire time. Because what America has become ahead of the Chinese rise is its own form of an anti-God empire. And you were willing to kneel here the same way you'll be willing to kneel there. Here, there, everywhere, cuck. This is who you people, this is what we've become. This is it. This is what we've chosen now. Who has the balls? Who has the temerity, the audacity to step up, stand up, and say, you know what? Enough is enough. Who? Cut the shit. All across the board. You Republicans, you Democrats, you 501c3 Christians, you Lutherans, you Catholics, you Muslims, you Jews, you whoever you are. Cut the shit. Cut the shit. And to my final point, this isn't to single anybody out. This isn't to single. This was the final criticism that made me start to think. You can tell it's CIA propaganda because the Arabs and the Muslims aren't saying anything about it. And this isn't the first time I saw it. It's not just one time. These are like reoccurring detractors. These are reoccurring responses to clips where I talk about the Uyghurs and the Uyghur Genocide or the Uyghurs being put in concentration camps. If there was really a genocide, if there was really something going on there in China, why aren't the other Arab and Muslim leaders talking about it? Well, I have an answer for you. Because you seem to think by the caricature that they paint on television about the Taliban or the Mujahideen or ISIS or Osama bin Laden or Muammar Gaddafi or Saddam or pick another Muslim that they put on the TV as the bad guy of tomorrow, you seem to think that there is a real Islamic Brotherhood. Oh, no, there's a group who goes by the name the Islamic Brotherhood, but you seem to think that the entire Arab world works in the interest of Arab or Muslim people. Oh, how the neocon neoliberal order has you fooled. But it's not about the Uyghur genocide in China. It's about the oil you've been fucking getting for 40 years that you didn't have a problem putting in your gas tank. Did anybody have a problem putting oil in their gas tank, Tanner, for the last 40 years while we were taking the oil from the Arabs and the Muslims? Nobody had a problem with it. You all virtue signaled about it. You all jerked off. You got your little tree hugger parties, and you had all these conversations about how the American military is a savage pirate type entity and force, which was true, but you weren't willing to do much about it. And the same thing is true now, only now you're not even willing to admit that there actually is a thing happening. You'd much rather turn your head completely. Woe is the world when man would much rather turn their head completely than confront the lack of clarity in their own will and spirit. Woe is the world. You think the Arab and Muslim world is a monolith? They're the most unmonolithic culture in the entire world. How do you think we were able to go into the Middle East and create a bunch of tribal and culture wars to get the oil in the first place? The anti-Muslims only see one thing: money, power, sellouts. That's why the Arab and Muslim leaders won't speak about it. Erdogan from Turkey, great example. Oh, President Erdogan, a couple months back, oh, there's a war going on between Ukraine and Russia. The West, Russia and the European Union are at odds, and America and NATO. Time to kill some Kurds. Time to kill some Kurds. President Erdogan, Turkey, one of the key Muslim countries in the entire world, are they going to help the Uyghurs of East Turkestan? No. Is it because they're not being genocided? No, it's because he don't give a fuck. They made you think that he should care about Arabs. They make you think that tribal identity matters that way. They made you think that identity politics matters at a spiritual, fundamental level, the way you have it make it important in your little Judeo-Buddhist prayer circle. The way you vote Democrat. You think that the Arab leaders think about Muslims and Arabs the way you think about Democrats. That's a CIA psyop for your ass. That's how the CIA works. They got you thinking that the Arab and Muslim leaders think and feel about the Islamic or Arab or Muslim identity the same way you think and feel about being a Democrat. But the truth is, you don't even really feel that way about being a Democrat either, do you? You a sell a fucking Democrat out in the mind. You have no loyalty. You have no allegiance. Don't you see it? They're playing a game on identity, on the thin veil of identity. A bunch of different identities across a bunch of different places and times and people and cultures that has nothing to do with the game that's really being played. The game that is being played is being played under the table, and you're talking about everything that's happening on top of the table. Under the table, they're starting to cart people off for the things they believe in, and primarily faith in God. Faith in God inextricably linked to freedom. Inalienable rights granted to you by a creator, God-given rights, God-given freedom. That's the attack under the table. On top of the table, it's I'm black, I'm white, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Lutheran, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew, I'm an American, I'm a Russian, I'm a Ukrainian, I'm a white Russian, I'm a Nazi, I'm a communist, I'm a liberal, I'm a Republican, I'm a blah, 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 blah. You know what I see? A bunch of sheep lining up at the glory hole with a big, there's a place, there's a tavern where jerk-offs and cucks go to get their nightly entertainment. And at this tavern, there's one of those speakeasy type pushed swing doors like in the old saloon. You know what I'm talking about, Tanner? You know the doors of the bathroom, but it pushes both ways. It's a swinging door, like a saloon door. And in there's a bunch of glory holes. Bunch of glory holes, and they say they got a bunch of different writings over the top of them. Right now, there's a glory hole that says status quo. And all of you come and you run straight to that glory hole. I see a glory hole that says status quo above it, and I see an entire civilization of people who were given a brain kneeling at the glory hole, waiting for the money shot. That's who you all are. You're just waiting for the punchline. The punchline, fuckers, is your freedom's getting taken from you. That's the fucking punchline. Bicker as long as you want about all of the bullshit because tyranny is coming down the street and is going to drop a hammer on you. Let's see how beholden you are to all of your prejudgments. Let's see how beholden you are to your worldviews when we come and stick a fucking gun to your head. Just wait. Just wait for the punchline. And wouldn't it be just like the devil to set it up that way? To just watch a bunch of people squirm in this anxious, depressed, demoralized sort of ambiguity. Neither here nor there, but constantly committed to chaos and ridiculousness, which is now the number one show on MTV because, hey, if we can't do anything about self-governance, might as well just tune in to Rob Dyrdek, who I actually like, think the show is good, and jerk off for 9 hours straight. They play ridiculousness on MTV. I remember when MTV had Unplugged and you watched live musicians play music live. Kurt Cobain and Chris Cornell and you know, whoever else. They had these great bands. These people came and played live music. You people are such jerk-offs, they don't even have to entertain you with real talent anymore. They just make a compilation of videos of a bunch of other jerk-offs who film themselves being jerk-offs, and they let you jerk off to it for 10 hours straight. And you can buy some dope too. I mean, this isn't a one-trick pony amusement park. You can buy some dope. You can watch people jerk off. You can talk about politics and Donald Trump. If you want to tune in and feel like the world is safe, just listen to Rachel Maddow. I'm sure Rachel Maddow has your safety and freedom in mind, okay? And New York Times and Google or Apple or pick one. I'm sure all these people have your freedom in mind, your best interest in mind. I'm positive. And the one person in the entire fucking world that you can cast all of your angst and despair and resentment and fear and cuckness and jerk-offness and lack of faith and sacred honor and self-governance onto is dun-da-da-da, Donald Trump. He's the ultimate scapegoat. Donald Trump is the ultimate scapegoat in human history. They keep coming back to this. This motherfucker is the well that never runs dry. And you people show your lack of taste. I mean, if you're going to fucking pull me, right? If you're going to fucking pull me, at least have the decency, at least have the respect to not insult my intelligence by giving me the same jerk twice. Right? I mean, this whore is jerking you off the same way 20 times in a row. She has no different method to it. She doesn't twist or turn or she doesn't do anything different. It's the same old thing. She doesn't talk different. She doesn't even say anything different. It's the same exact jerk off every time. She gets down and she just straight on every time. And you love it. You love it. You take that. You accept that. Is that too graphic for you at home? Can I not talk about the physical nature of jerking of adults jerking each other off? Well, exit out of the fucking circle jerk then, you circle jerk cuck motherfuckers. Oh, there he goes with the profanity. I'm going to unsubscribe. I can't take the profanity. I'm a Christian. It's Holy Week. It's Holy Week, and a bunch of people are going to act like they're observing Good Friday and Easter, living in an anti-God culture and society. I'm sick of it. I'm not here to play the game with you. The alarms are going off. Pretty soon there will be no Easter because to say you're a Christian at all, to say you believe in any God, will be seen as domestic terrorism. And now, by the way, they're going to justify that transgenders have a good reason to shoot up schools. I saw a clip of the great Winsome Sears, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, have to check Bill Maher and a Finocchio on Bill Maher's show who wanted to talk about dead naming and misgendering? After a transgender goes into a school and shoots 3 adults and 3 children. And this motherfucker is talking about dead naming and misgendering? This is the movement that you all paid for. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you like your seats. I hope you enjoy the show. Because it's about to get a little more crazy than that. What's even more crazy than using an LGBTQ cultural movement to now justify transgender mass shootings, what's even crazier than that is that all of you motherfuckers at home are completely okay with getting your antibiotics from a country that has just put over 2 million cultural and ethnic minorities in a concentration camp, and the other people who faced systemic oppression won't even mention their name. This has been another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio, and now powered by our first sponsor, TireGet.com. TireGet.com, the alternative economy, the patriot economy, the parallel economy. Go and get your tires from TireGet.com. We got to fund the movement. We got to support the movement. I hope tonight, after this podcast concludes, you will go over to the Professor Penn podcast, which you can find on my YouTube channel in the featured channel section, and watch his podcast tonight. Not sure what the topic is going to be. I'm sure it'll be great. I hope that you'll subscribe to his podcast as well as mine. Hit the like button. And as always, the fight continues. Godspeed. And I want to add this tonight. Don't die a jerk off.